Oh, it is a behind enemy lines look. And you know it's a special week when I got two different Giants content creators. That's right. I've got Big Pat Sports Talk and then G Nation Inside Sports. Big Lou in the building. Appreciate you, fellas. This is going to be a fun one. Short week for the 49ers, short week for the Giants. What do we need to know about the opposing team behind enemy lines? We got a ton to talk about, and we're going to do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. You know what it is. Wednesday night, behind enemy lines night. As I said, I got two great Giants content creators with me. We'll start with you, Big Pat Sports Talk. How you doing tonight, my man?
Man, I'm doing good, doing good. Waiting to get into these topics with a 49ers fan, man. You know, we have an illustrious history. Unfortunately, we the ones that stopped Joe Montana from running off 4 or 5 Super Bowls in a row. We had to do
So
it to you
true.
twice. So
So
we got a
true.
lot of history.
You know, it's funny that you bring that up because that is one of my first memories as a 49er fan is losing to the Giants after he got hurt in the playoffs and crying as a young child. So thanks for hurting my soul right out the gate. My goodness. Big Lou from G Nation Inside Sports. How you doing tonight, my man?
What's going on? Thank you for having me, first of all, man. Appreciate it. Similar to what Pat said, there's a long history of rivalry games between the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Giants. Early on in the rivalry, San Francisco owned us. And then we hired a coach by the name of Bill Parcells and a linebacker by the name of Lawrence Taylor, and the rest is history. But even in our last Super Bowl runs, the 49ers were involved in those playoff games. That last game where Eli was getting up with his helmet over here and grass and his pads out over his jersey.
Right.
So, it's a historic battle with the Giants and the 49ers. That 1990 playoff game where we beat them 15-12 was like one of the lowest scoring playoff games ever. And it was a hard fought battle. Every time it's the 49ers and the Giants, it's going to be a fight. So that's what I'm looking forward to this Thursday.
One game that I'll always remember was, what was it? Was it 2002? Either way, Jeff Garcia, the Trey Junkin game. Was that his name? Your long snapper? Was it Trey Junkin? Was that his name? The guy that just flubbed yeah. Oh my gosh. That was a crazy comeback. You guys were whooping the crap out of the 49ers, and then they came back behind T.O. and Garcia, and then your long snapper screwed that whole thing up. But yeah, man, some really, really good games between the 49ers and Giants. It's a rivalry that we don't get to see very often, but when they meet, it's usually a big-time game and usually a playoff game, oddly enough. This time, not so much, just a regular old Thursday night football game, but you guys as soldiers are coming in a little banged up, man, from what I understand. And we'll start with you, Big Pat Sports Talk. From what I understand, you guys have 4 starters out. You have Ojulari's out, a good pass rusher, young pass rusher for you. Can't seem to stay healthy. That's unfortunate. You've got your left tackle out. You've got one of your other offensive linemen out. And then, of course, big time Saquon Barkley, who's on my fantasy team, by the way. I was hoping he would play. But he's going to be out, it seems, for a few weeks. What's going on, man? Like, how are you feeling about this team right now, this injury update? Like, what are your thoughts?
Man, listen, a lot of the Giants community are getting down because we do have our best playmaker out in Saquon Barkley and our best pass protector out of Andrew Thomas. We're just going to have to step up and be next man up. We're going to have to find a way to protect the quarterback because if we allow Nick Bosa to do what he wants to do against us, this game is going to be a very long night for the Giants. But I think we'll be okay, man. We're going to have to use Matt Breida to our advantage with his straight line speed and we're gonna have to use Paris Campbell a little bit. But I'm gonna let Lou talk about the other injuries and Ben Bredesen and those guys as well.
Ben Bredesen with his concussion, I think that was actually more of a blessing than a curse. No, I'm serious. I think Izudu actually shined at the tackle position. I think McKeithen stepped up and did very well. So what we were hoping to see out of these young guys last year, we actually got to see in that Arizona game. And being able to come back and get that win gives them some confidence. And we know that as an offensive line, that is the key component for them to start gelling is confidence first. So being able to pull out that second half historic victory should give them some confidence rolling into this short week and keep their mind off of the fact that they got injured players.
Is this something? It seems like, the Saquon Barkley injury might be a couple weeks lasting. Is this something that for most of these injuries are going to linger? Like, if this wasn't a Thursday night game, how many of these guys do you think would have played on Sunday?
I think Andrew Thomas would have definitely played.
Okay. Which is probably a big miss, your left tackle, right? So
right.
That's good. I mean, that's good for the future past this game. I mean, we'll see what happens in this game, what have you, but going forward for a team that definitely had some high expectations coming into this season, let's get into those real quick. And we'll start with you, Big Lou. Going into the season, first of all, the Giants had a hell of a season last year. I think they surprised a lot of people. I know there were some Giants fans early on that kind of predicted this. I don't know that many people outside of the Giants community thought that they would be a playoff team. Definitely some believers over there, and it happened. Brian Daboll, hell of a coach. Danny Dimes did his thing. The team put it together, maybe even a year earlier than expected, to be real with you. But now what that means is you get Danny Dimes paid. You got Saquon Barkley paid for the 1 year. I know there was the contract stuff back and forth. But overall, I got to imagine that expectations are high and that it should be a playoff team again, based off of your thoughts. Going into this season, Big Lou, did you expect playoffs? And do you still have the same expectations that you had going into the season? Or have you kind of pulled back a little bit on those with some of the early injuries and whatnot?
No, if anybody here has seen my content before tonight's collaboration, I have a record prediction of 11-6. I even have T-shirts, merch for sale that says "Believe 11-6." I went through the schedule when the schedule was released and gave what games I thought we would win and what games would be a struggle for us. The 49er one was definitely one of the ones that was very questionable. Not doubting my team, but just acknowledging that the 49ers are one of the better built teams in the league right now. They're one of the ready to go now teams, Super Bowl caliber team, Super Bowl contention team. But if anybody has a history of knocking teams off their track when they're undefeated or look like they're the end all be all team, it's the Giants. So that's why I have a little bit of hope that we can pull it off. And with the injured players, that next man up mentality, sometimes guys tend to step up in major ways and do things that they don't normally do. So it's if they game plan right, I think they can win. As far as expectations for the season, I still think 11-6 is the minimum. I think we can do more, but again, it's contingent on if these guys pick up where they left off last year. And the first game did not look like we were picking up where we left off last
definitely
year.
Not, yeah.
Certainly the first 2 quarters of the Arizona game didn't look like we were picking up where we left off last year. But that last second half, they looked like what we saw last year. They had the in-game adjustment came out in the second half and did what they needed to do to win. You had Daniel Jones pulling yet another fourth quarter comeback victory, right? And we ran for 100 yards. We threw for 300 yards. We had multiple players with touchdowns, which is what I've been saying in the offseason was we have the opportunity to be the greatest show on turf, Big Blue version. So I'm not wavering from that. I think we can still be a playoff contention team and maybe even a championship team.
All right. What's up with you, Big Pat Sports Talk? Are you as optimistic as your Giant family down there?
Oh yeah, we definitely family, part of the Big Blue Crew. 11-6 is the floor. I actually predicted us to go 13-4 this year before injuries and everything started happening. But hey, we play the 49ers this week coming up. I see a lot of laughter in the chat. They're delusional.
Yeah.
They was telling me I was delusional last year too when I told you that we was going to win a playoff game. And look what happened. So you can laugh all you want, but we've always played you guys well throughout our entire history. I think we actually got the upper hand.
Hey, call me a homer. I will say this: as a kid, one of the guys that drew me to liking football, the two major guys that made me like football, was Joe Montana and Jerry Rice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my family, I grew up a Giants fan, but as a kid, I didn't really watch. I just watched them cheer, you know. But I started paying attention when you started seeing the bombs from Montana to Rice, and Rice just galloping past defenders with such speed that you're like, holy crap, you know. And then it piqued my interest, and then I started watching weekly with my uncle and, you know, the elders. But yeah, it was the 49ers are a major reason as to why I became a huge football fan. I won't deny that.
That's dope. No, that's definitely dope. But listen, you don't got to cater to these guys. They're going to talk their ish no matter what. They do it every week. They do it every week. Yeah.
But I'm just being honest. Montana and Rice they were phenomenal. You got to give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
Dan Marino was a phenomenal quarterback. It's a shame he never got a ring, but I enjoyed watching Marino play. He was completely different than everybody.
Yep.
I mean, Barry Sanders helped shape my childhood. You know, he's a Lions running back, but how do you not love Barry? Yeah, he was that dude for sure.
As a football fan, you got to give props to the greats, regardless what jersey they wear. You know, and Jerry Rice and Montana were two of the greats. So
absolutely. Speaking of greats, I might add a topic. We'll see how long this goes. I know that we're on a tight schedule, but I might add a topic that might get spicy at the end that doesn't have to do with this week's game, but has to do with the Giants. And I think it might be fun. But $2 Chuck, Brother Bob, he's my resident ish talker. So he's going to come in a lot tonight with these $2 super chats. He says, we're starting the ownage against the Giants again. He's pulling his receipt. Then he says, these brothers know they're getting spanked 44-6. And then he says, Nail's trying not to laugh. Oh, well, we'll laugh. So here we go. He's on tilt already, this guy. And then he says, G Nation Debo gonna do y'all like Rice did. All right. Well, here we go.
Okay, Mr. Chuck, Brother Bob, when did you ever own the Giants?
$2 Chuck, Brother Bob. Yo, that
takes a lot of thinking to come up with that. But I'm still trying to figure out, when did you ever own the Giants? Because it looks like the Giants is the one that stopped you guys from having like 8 Super Bowl rings. We've the one that's been stopping you. So I don't know. You gotta let me know.
We got a lot of Giants fans over here. Feel free to throw money at your Giants content creators up there, because you know, we'll definitely read those as well. But that being said, there's a guy on this team that I really want to talk about. Okay. And not only because he's obviously a Giant and it makes sense this week, but because I'm an Oregon Duck fan. Grew up my whole life in Oregon. I now live in Tampa, Florida, but for 35 years I lived in Oregon. So Kayvon Thibodeau is a guy that I'm very familiar with. It seems, small pulse, I don't have a pulse on the whole fan base, and you guys in the chat can let us know as well. This time we're going to start with you, Mr. Big Pat Sports Talk. But Kayvon Thibodeau, is he trending towards being a bust? Are you worried about him? It seems like the Giants fan base is starting to talk about it a little bit, which surprised me.
We live in a generation where they expect everybody to be a Micah Parsons just because they're a high pick. You got to know that when you're looking at people like that, those dudes are different. Those dudes have a work ethic that's extremely way beyond the regular person. Now, is Kayvon Thibodeau supposed to be regular? No, he's supposed to be like one of those guys as well. but you have to give it time. The man has only played in the league 1 year and 2 games. And he's gotten pressures in those 2 games, but everybody just looks at a stat sheet. And if he doesn't have 5 sacks in 2 games, oh, he sucks. You know, so the game is more than just stats. You got to go by pressures. You got to go by what he's been asked to do. And I did a video on it, and I basically explained what Giants fans are talking about because they don't see like what he does is compared to TJ Watt or Aaron Donald or what's the Nick Bosa, who just got $30 million with you guys. Like, those are the upper echelon guys, but they've been doing it for a little bit longer than what Thibodeau has been doing it. And you obviously, you've watched Nick Bosa and probably some of the workouts you've seen him do. That's the stuff that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to have to do if he wants to turn into one of those monsters like that, because he's going to want money like that. He's going to want endorsements and everything. And if he wins in New York, he's going to be a legend, but he's going to have to put in the work. I understand the frustration, but you can't call somebody a bust after 1 year. It's ridiculous.
And he hasn't even been used in the pass rush like that. They've been using him in coverage more than any DN in the league. But
right.
Pay attention to that. They just got to have a negative narrative to push to get clicks and views.
Yeah, for me, I've always got a 3-year rule on players because you've seen it time and time again. You've seen players come into the league at all positions and they're on fire, and then they fall off. Or you've seen vice versa, where the first couple of years, maybe they're not as great as expectations would have led you to believe, and then they pick it up in year 3. So I have a 3-year rule for all players. I think 2 years in, a couple games into your second year is always too early to call somebody a bust. It's just way too early for that. He's supremely talented. And to your point, how he's being used is a little bit different. You wouldn't expect him to put up the sack numbers and all these other things. He is an athlete. He can do a multitude of different things. And so they're going to use his talents the best way that they see fit. But the Giants, one thing about the Giants, long history, phenomenal pass rushers come from that blue uniform. And I think that there's the expectation that Thibodeau is going to be that next guy. And if it doesn't happen right away, some frustration can start to set in. I see that you guys are measured in your takes. It seems like the chat is measured in their takes for the most part. I was a bit surprised when I saw that, but I have to bring it up and make sure that I get this skinny because this is game week. And I'm glad that you are saying, hey, too early for all that. I love to hear it.
Early. You got guys who have come in year 1 and year 2 of their career and didn't pan out well. And then, they trash him in the media. They call him a bust. They send him somewhere else, and he becomes the best player on the damn team, goes to Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl, and that team is sitting there kicking themselves in the butt like, damn, we let one get away. You see it all the time. You got to give some of these guys time to develop. Not everybody learns at the same pace. There's a learning curve, and people find their stride at different parts of that curve. So
there you go. Edgardo says his first game was a 49ers-Giants game, and the gold helmet team kept scoring. So as a Bronx kid, he became a 49er fan. There you go. That's how it happens.
BX in the building, Mr. Rosario.
Appreciate you.
$2 Chuck comes back in. He says, who has more Lombardis, Niners or the Giants?
Y'all have more Lombardis, but we have more in total if you combine championships and Lombardis.
Man, forget all that. When the last time y'all won one?
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming. Damn it.
The last time y'all won one.
Goodness sakes. He said, measure this. 44 for the 49ers and 6 for the Giants. All right.
I'll tell you what, if you want to watch highlights of your last Super Bowl victory, you have to break out the reel.
And don't forget, sir, we're the only franchise that's won a Super Bowl the past 4 decades. We've won one in every decade.
That is very, very true. That is very, very true. Well, the last time you guys won a Super Bowl was with one Eli Manning
Yep.
Danny Dimes looks like the long lost Manning brother, really. I think there's mixed feelings on Danny Dimes. I'm going to give you my opinion on Danny Dimes. I have a second channel. It's an all NFL channel. And a video I made before the season started was Danny Dimes might be the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. Now, what I didn't say was he's a top 10 quarterback. I don't think he's there yet. But I think when people look at Daniel Jones, they consider him a bottom 5 quarterback way too often. And if you watch him play, that's not the case. What's interesting to me is I put a poll out during the offseason on Twitter, had I think a little over 1,000 votes on it. And I blindly put up Daniel Jones's numbers next to Justin Fields' numbers. 99% of this 1,000+ people that voted on a blind test took Daniel Jones. So, because a lot of people, they got the Justin Fields hype, and hopefully he turns out okay. I don't want to bring him into this necessarily, but that just goes to show you that the hype was over here. This player in Daniel Jones is looked at as a piss poor quarterback, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. But I've got to imagine that the fan base is a little bit split on a player who's had some ups and downs. Took him, 4 years or so in the league to really start to ascend. Even last year, he didn't make a lot of mistakes. He had the rushing yards, but he also didn't throw a lot of touchdowns. And then this year, it starts off rocky, looked much better in week 2. Big Lou, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts on Daniel Jones, and what are the things that you're spitting to the people that watch you when it comes to Daniel Jones?
All the hate on Daniel Jones is fake news. Fake news, ladies and gentlemen. He's a great young man. He can throw the deep ball better than anybody. He's phenomenal. You should see him out there. It's fake news, guys. Fake news. No, I mean, he gets a lot of hate just because, and I gotta admit, even though I'm a Giants fan, Bronx native, our fan base is some of the most unbalanced people in the world. Like, you have Giants fans who will fight each other over their stance on a team member that they both love the team. Like, it's so half of our fan base is too toxic to have a normal conversation with. So you got to learn how to discern who's an actual fan that knows the game and who's just a weekend warrior and who just wants to jump in the conversation on the winning side. And that, once you figure that out and you start having conversations with the guys who know the sport, you'll see that the narrative is this guy is a decent quarterback. If you put some pieces around him and some good coaching, he can win you some games. And the logical fans see this and say this, but you got them weekend warriors or them guys who just want to get clicks and likes who come in and say something controversial because, like it or not, in modern day society, controversy is what sells and what gets clicks and views. But if you know football, you know that he came into a crappy situation, worst O-line in the league, probably the worst head coach in Joe Judge in the league, worst OC in Jason Garrett, and then you add to the fact that he had 3 coaches in 4 years, 3 offenses in 4 years, the slowest wide receiver core in the NFL last year, with a bunch of patchwork guys that they brought in from everywhere, Amazon drivers and practice squad receivers. And, the fact that he was able to go and win a playoff game with that hodgepodge of a team, he should get recognition for that in itself.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Big Pat Sports Talk? What are you thinking about Danny Dimes?
And sorry for the winded answers, but I like to be concise.
No, I like it. Listen, I'm all for this, man. I got all the time in the world. I love these shows. I collaborate a lot with my own, the 49ers content creators, whatever. But during the season, this show has gained so much popularity. It did last year. People loved it. And I think that most fans really, life is busy. Most fans have time to really pay attention to their team, and they know their team inside and out. And for me, when you look at it like the ESPNs and all these other things, you can tune in and you can watch those guys, but just know that they don't know down to the T what these teams are all about. They don't have a real pulse on the fan base. And so having a content creator, and in this case, two of you here to talk the game with me and learn about your team and teach, my fan base about your team, and then vice versa. Hopefully I can do the same for the Giants fan base and teach you all about the 49ers. That's what it's all about. These collaborations are fantastic. I think a lot of people really dig them. The chat seems to be in on it tonight. Be as long-winded as you want, man. Do your thing.
Well, when it comes to the whole DJ situation, I've actually taken more flack from my own fan base than other fan bases with DJ, because if you are a fan that really doesn't want to get to the nitty gritty of your team and you just listen to ESPN and all those guys, you would think Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback to ever play the game. And the thing I can't stand is when you actually state facts, like he didn't have very good coaching. He didn't have consistency around him. He's never had a good offensive line. He just got weapons this year. They say that's excuses. And okay, if you think like that, okay, but keep the same energy for other quarterbacks. What's the excuse when Justin Herbert and them don't do good? And then they'll turn right around and tell me, well, the Chargers coach is terrible. Well, didn't I just tell you we had Joe Judge? And that was one of the main reasons why DJ wasn't putting up those type of stats. Like, I don't get it, man. It's like you gotta make your own opinion about the quarterback. So if you want to listen to ESPN and them, go ahead. You think that you're voting for the worst quarterback to ever play the game, and then when he starts winning, they'll switch. Then I guess your attitude is switch about him too. But it is what it is.
I like it. Ryan G. Hensley Show, fellow 49er content creator. What's up, Ryan? How you doing? He says, just went to New York for the first time last year. Loved it. Great city. The New York Giants, on the other hand, stocked down. I like it. I like it. $2 Chuck comes back, says, G Nation, nice hat. You down to bet that hat?
I'm not a gambling man, sir. I'll bet you some push-ups.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, I don't gamble. I used to be a big dice roller. I used to be a big CeeLo player on the block. And, somebody told me in the middle of a dice game that I don't want to mess up your stream, but when Jesus was being nailed to the cross, they was rolling dice for his clothes at the foot of the cross while he was bleeding. And somebody told me that, and I didn't believe him. And I went and looked it up in the Bible, and sure enough, it was true. I stopped rolling dice and gambling that day. I was 17 years old was the last time I gambled.
That's big. That's big. That's crazy. You know what? I also, my story is not as prominent as that, but I don't gamble on any of my teams because every time I do, they lose. The last time that I gambled on the 49ers was twice. I did it twice in the same season. It was the last time the 49ers went to the Super Bowl and played the Ravens. Both games, I bet a friend who was a Rams fan. And I believe they tied one game and lost one game. And the Rams were atrocious. The 49ers were a way better team. I'm like, how the hell is this going to happen? So ever since then, I stopped betting on the 49ers or any of my teams. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm bad luck. Not going to do it. So.
But thank you for the compliment on the hat, though. You notice Super Bowl's on there, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, all right. I like it. I like it.
You know what it is. Let's be sure you see how many of them it is right there. Okay. All right. So you ain't talking about.
We got one less than is over here in San Francisco. I see it. 4 is less than 5. I understand that.
Yeah, I understand that. But ours are more recent.
That's true. Yep. I can't argue that. All right, Big Pat Sports Talk. Give me a player that we need to know. This every week is probably my favorite topic on this show. And the reason for that is there's always players around the league that just don't get their shine. And unless you're a fan of that team, there's a good chance you don't know who in the heck these players are, whether it's a rookie, whether it's an offensive lineman, maybe it's your nickel corner, whoever that is. Who's a player that 49er fans may not be familiar with that we need to know for this game Thursday, and not just this game, but has a bright future in your opinion in the NFL?
I'm going to go Marcus McKeithen, right guard.
I like it.
I believe Marcus McKeithen, he fits well with our rookie center, John Michael Schmitz. I think those two guys together will actually be a pretty good formidable line down the road. Once Marcus McKeithen gets his feet together at the right guard position, John Michael Schmitz is I think he's going to be an absolute monster within his first 2 years. Those two guys together, if we could get our right tackle position figured out, hopefully Evan Neal steps up and takes that over. If not, maybe we could kick him down to left guard and move Azudo to right tackle when Andrew Thomas gets back. And I think that might be a very good line moving forward. But the guy that you're going to need to know is Marcus McKeithen moving forward. I think he's going to take over that right guard spot.
All right. I like it. Do you have another name that you want to give me, Big Lou? A player that we need to know about here in 49er land?
Well, a lot of people that know his name, and he made a pretty big splash when he came onto the team last year, but he got injured. And since we've acquired Darren Waller, his name has kind of faded into obscurity. But Daniel Bellinger is a weapon that can be used in passing, blocking, run blocking, screens. He's a utility knife, and a lot of people aren't talking about him. And when you got speedsters like Waller, Jalen Hyatt, Paris Campbell, Darius Slayton, and you start running with them because you're worried about them taking the top off, he can cut across the middle in between them seams and kill you. And he's not a little guy. He's hard to take down.
I like that. Okay, that is not a name that I would have expected to come out of your mouth. And that is, you're right. I mean, Darren Waller, obviously the big pickup this offseason, but the two tight end sets, you got to imagine, with maybe not the best receiving core out there, if I'm being nice, maybe the two tight end sets is the way to go. So you got them. When Saquon's healthy, it makes a lot of sense that that's where you're going to attack. I like that. I think that's a great name. I can give you a couple here in San Francisco that y'all should be familiar with. Number one, I'm going to go our left guard, Aaron Banks. He's going into his third year. His rookie year, he basically redshirted. Last year, came in, played extremely good football. This year right now, through the course of the first two games, has not allowed a single stat to be put up against him. Not a sack, not a pressure, not a QB hit. This man is on fire right now. He's an up-and-coming left guard. I think a top 15 guard in the NFL right now, and he is ascending right there next to Trent Williams. Trent Williams gets all the love, and deservedly so. But Aaron Banks, man, he is on the rise. So the left side of this line right now is very, very hard to get home on the quarterback. And then another name I'm going to give you is our second corner. Plays a lot of nickel. He moves in and out, but you're going to hear him a lot this week. Diamador Lenore, another Oregon Duck. You guys got Tibbs over there. We got a few of them over here, but Diamador Lenore, man, 5th round pick. He's on the rise, put himself in phenomenal shape this offseason. He looks leaner. He looks more fit, and he is playing really, really good football. Arguably, even though we got Charvarius Ward and he's a hell of a player, arguably to this point in the season, Demo is playing slightly better than him, and I think that's big because we didn't necessarily know what to expect from that second corner position. He's playing really, really good football right now.
Yeah, he actually is. I think we still can attack you in the middle of the field. Go ahead, Lou.
Okay, go ahead.
If Joe Shane is listening at all, make that trade and get that guard from them. Okay, first off. And secondly, I wanted to throw another name in there that people forgot about because of his injury last year, who just came off of the PUP. He will be integrated back into the system at some point within the next few weeks, possibly this week with Barkley's absence, because he did have some snaps at running back in college. Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yep. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, but Lenore, that DB, he can wreck a game plan. I think you guys are going to put him on whoever comes across the middle, whether it be Waller or somebody like Paris Campbell and everything. But I still think we could take advantage of you guys on those drag routes. For some reason, you guys do not like those drag routes across the middle of the field. You don't guard them. You put Fred Warner so far back that it's like you can take that. You can take the 6 to 7 yards. Let's see if you can keep doing it. And I think we have the offense to be able to do that if you allow us to.
I
And that
think that's the big thing is you gotta and I love what you're saying because last week this kind of showed out and it was working fantastically. But in a game like that you have to be perfect. You can't have drops, you can't have any missed reads, nothing. It really forces the other team, and in this case the Giants, if that's the route that they're gonna take, you just have to be perfect on those, man. You have to stay perfect, and that's a hard game to play for a full 60. But I do agree there is a potential weakness there for sure.
Yeah, I want Paris Campbell right there because if Puka could do what he did, Paris Campbell's going to be a whole lot worse. And you're going to have to come up sooner, and that's when Hyatt is going to come into play. That's when Waller's going to come into play. I wish y'all would put Fred Warner on Waller one-on-one. I don't think you're
I'm
going to
for it.
do it.
I'm for that matchup.
You putting
I'm
Fred
for it.
Warner on Waller?
I'm for it. Oh yes.
He
Oh
said, "I'm
yes.
Go
for it." Oh
I love
man,
to see it. I'm for it.
Go look at some Raiders games and
I'm for
a
it.
couple of Raiders games when they played y'all, and then look at Fred Warner on Darren Waller, and then I think you might change your mind.
I
Fred
think well,
Warner is
first of all,
very good.
here's one thing that you're not going to get is you're not going to get a lot of man coverage from the 49ers. So
No, you're not.
the odds of that just being a man-to-man type look, not going to be likely. But if there's anybody in the NFL that can run up the seam with Darren Waller stride for stride, it is definitely Fred Warner. We watched him do it stride for stride in the playoffs with CeeDee Lamb. And no disrespect to Waller, Waller's a hell of a tight end and an athletic tight end. But he is not more athletic than CeeDee Lamb, who's a wide receiver. And if he can
But
go step
see,
for step with him up the seam, I think he can do the same thing with Waller. I have no doubt about it.
that's an assignment that he did. He ran to a spot. He could do that with the best of them because he is that athletic. I'm talking about able to guard Waller when he's doing a double move or he's going to an out route or going to a corner route or such. And he has to line up in front of him. There's no way he's going to
Yeah,
be
you're
able to
probably
hang
not
with
going
him.
to see that. The Niners aren't going to play man, and I would say if that's the look, and I'm expecting any linebacker, Fred Warner aside, anybody to line up and just play straight up man play in and play out. That's a matchup that the Giants and Waller I think would welcome. As good as Fred is, that's not his game. He's definitely going to be more getting to a spot and carrying guys deep. The 49ers trust him to do so. If a player can be carried deep, definitely it's going to be Fred Warner that can do it for sure. But no, I
Yeah,
mean, just straight man to man, 40, 50, 60 snaps. I don't think anybody in the league can take that task on. That's a tough task. Waller's really good.
I will say this. The only thing that might save y'all is our offensive line, and it won't give us enough time to get those deep comeback routes off. Because I know for a fact they're gonna hit y'all right across the middle. Because everybody does that against you. You allow it to happen. Because, like you said, it's hard to play a perfect game like that. Any drop or any mishap or anything, you're coming off the field. But I just think our athleticism at the receiver position with Paris Campbell, Wandale Robinson when he comes back, Slayton and Hyatt. If we can start getting those routes and start making you come up to stop it because we're getting first downs, and then we attack you deep with Hyatt. Now saying what's Tufunga, what's his name?
Hufunga. Yeah. Talanoa
Tufunga.
Hufunga. Yep.
He's very good, but I don't think he can run with Hyatt at all. And if we get behind you one time and hit one of those, and now you got to start thinking, that's when those deep comeback routes start coming to play. That's when Slayton comes into play. Shoot off the line, come right back. I don't care if it's Ward or anybody out there. When you're worried about speed, you're going to lay off a little bit, and that starts to open up. And maybe it starts getting y'all out that zone. I don't know, man. It really should be a good game if our offensive line blocks. But that's the thing. If Nick Bosa has his way, we can't get into our plan, and that's gonna
Yeah,
suck.
that's gonna be huge this week. Is that pressure from the front four? Nick Bosa. Now remember, Nick Bosa held out, and he didn't come in until the Wednesday before that first game. So being in football shape is not. He hasn't been there. His legs haven't been there the last couple of weeks. We'll see how it is this week. I would expect if there's a week that he's going to eat early on, it's going to be this week against a backup left tackle. But I do want to address this comment right here. Jesse Rivera says we better find a way to put pressure on overrated Purdy. Okay, let's talk about Brock Purdy for a second. I want to get your thoughts on Brock Purdy. But I don't know like how you can say that Brock Purdy's overrated. I can't see that. I think he's very properly rated right now. I think he's sitting anywhere between 12 and 17 or so in the league. I guess it depends on how you look at quarterbacks. But Brock Purdy's playing really, really good football. And one thing I will say about Brock Purdy, you can talk about his stature, you can talk about, the lack of arm strength and what have you, but that man has mental fortitude through the roof. He will not get rattled. He will not get confused, and he is not afraid to take chances. He's not afraid to let his nuts hang, basically, is what I'm saying. This man plays his ass off. I expect Brock Purdy to have a very good game. He had arguably, you can call it a bad game, arguably the worst game of his young career last week. Still, the offense put up 30 points. He's going to bounce back in a big way. I think Brock Purdy, anybody that's still saying that he's overrated, I think is in for a rude awakening. Brock Purdy's a lot better than what people want to give him credit for. And I'm starting to see that from some of these fan bases. What are your guys' thoughts on Brock Purdy? And I'm surprised, Jesse, coming from the Giants fan base that just tried to sell me on Danny Dimes being underrated, that you would throw the same shade back at young Brock Purdy, man. I'm a little disappointed in you. But that being said, we'll start with you this time, Big Lou. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
I actually agree with you. He's shown great poise. He hasn't been rattled. He makes good decisions. Now, true, can he make every throw on the field? Maybe not. But can he get stronger and develop a deeper pass? Yeah. Can he work on his accuracy? Yeah. Some of the same things that people try to knock Daniel Jones for, like you just said, I hear him getting some of the same shade. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not a good quarterback or he's overrated. I will say he's in a system that caters to his skill sets. His coaches are putting him in a position to use his strengths to their benefit, which is what a good coach does. But if I had to say what is the way that is more feasible for the Giants to beat the 49ers, is to take away Christian McCaffrey and force Brock Purdy to beat you. Simply because he's less experienced in the NFL. And if you can get him off his mark and possibly force some of his throws earlier than he'd like them to be, then you can potentially get some takeaways and have a momentum swing that can help you win the game. But no, I don't think he's overrated at all. I think he's a very qualified quarterback that gets a lot of hate, much like Daniel Jones.
Yeah, most definitely. And I agree. I mean, the catalyst to this offense is Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy's still in year number 2. He hasn't even had 16 full starts. But everything we've seen from Brock Purdy so far is as good as it can be. He's got a lot of talent around him. Completely agree with that. But he is an ascending player. And again, I think when people get to know who Brock Purdy is, regardless of what you want to say about the physical traits, mentally, he is 100% in these games, and he welcomes those challenges. Now, the team's not saying anything. He's not going to hear anything from the fan base. But we saw week 1 when he was challenged by one corner not to be named here from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went at him play after play after play and cooked him all game long. That's who Brock Purdy is. So I love that you gave him some respect. Big Pat Sports Talk, what is your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
I think Brock Purdy fits you guys perfectly. And I said that he was going to be a pretty good quarterback coming out of Iowa State. I actually watched him play at Iowa State. He was actually pretty good. His pocket presence is natural. He's a natural in pocket presence, so you don't have to worry about that. And you can't hate on Brock Purdy. He's undefeated in the regular season. He's undefeated. And the only time he got beat is when he got hurt. So, and I think he would have beat the Eagles down that game if he didn't get hurt. I promise you would have. That defense was playing crazy that game, and everything went away when they knew they offense wasn't going to be able to do anything because they had me at quarterback. But in order for the beat the 49ers, as much praise as I give Brock Purdy, you have to make Brock Purdy beat you throwing the ball, and I mean outside the numbers. That man is so comfortable throwing inside the numbers to Kittle and Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. And when Deebo Samuel gets the ball, it's one of the hardest people in the NFL to tackle. He's like a bowling ball. I don't know why he's so hard to tackle. It's weird. But you can't allow them to get the quick screen game off because if Deebo Samuel's getting quick screens turning into 30, 40 yards, it's ridiculous. You can't let Christian McCaffrey catch the ball and go 30, 40, 50 yards. You can't let him go off tackle for 40, 50 yards because all they're going to do is do the little fake pitch or however they want to do it to you and roll them out, and there goes George Kittle. He's getting 40 yards now. Their offense, when you guys score, if it's not just pounding you straight down the field with running attacks, it's just one or two plays where they catch the ball on the screenplay and they turn it to 50 yards for a touchdown or something like that because you can't tackle them. It's simple. It's not.
But it's hard.
Yeah.
Simple, but it ain't easy.
It's simple, but it's not easy because they do have those players around them. Brandon Ayuk is the number one receiver, if you ask me. Deebo Samuel, not worried about him routing me up or anything, but when he gets the ball in his hands, it's one of the hardest people in the league to tackle. It's ridiculous. And Christian McCaffrey, he's back on his thing. So they can attack you on a multitude of ways, but if you stop that big play and make them beat you and make them throw outside the numbers, he hasn't proven that he can do that consistently yet. And you better do it now because when he gets older and gets into his career and he learns that outside game, hopefully y'all still have a team around him. It's going to be a problem still, but hey, I think that's the way you can beat those guys. Make him play outside the numbers.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's one of those things that, in a young career, there's always questions in a young career. And until you see it, it's like, they haven't done it yet. Not saying that they can't do it, but you got to see it before you believe it. I totally understand that. I think, much like you were talking about when it comes to crossing routes and playing the short game, whatever, I think that that's probably what Giants and some of these other teams want to do is they want to condense that field, make it more like a tennis court than an NFL field, get everybody close to that line of scrimmage, be able to play the run game, and then try to get some robbers over the middle of the field to see if you can just make a mistake happen. So far, so good. I think that's a good game plan. I don't think there are many teams in the league that have the horses to actually make that happen on the defensive side of the ball. So I'll be interested to see if that's something that the Giants adopt and see if it's something they can execute on. I think, like you said, it's simple, but it's not easy. You got to have the horses to do it. And I don't know that the Giants secondary has those horses, but you can let me know.
We got some dogs out there now. Don't get it twisted.
Okay.
Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks are nice, sir.
Okay.
Don't get it twisted now. Dory Jackson, you might be able to attack him with Jennings because he's a lot taller and stronger.
Yeah. All right.
The only thing I'm worried about is pass rush. If we could get a pass rush, we're only sitting like 4 or 5. Y'all might be in trouble. But if we got an all-out blitz, we're in trouble. But go ahead, Lou.
No, I was just looking at Christian E. Cowboys own the Giants.
Oh, man, I can't.
Super Bowl in the last 30 years. Y'all haven't owned one of them. So please get lost.
We turned it into everybody against the Cowboys guy. Before we get into these final two topics real quick, and I'll ask you, Big Lou, tell me a little bit about Dexter Lawrence. I've been trying to tell this fan base that Dexter Lawrence, to me, is the most underrated player in the entire NFL. Not at his position, not in the NFC, in the entire NFL, all positions. I think there's not enough people talking about Lawrence. He is absolutely incredible. If I remember the stat correctly, he had more pressures from the 0 and 1 technique last year than number 2 and number 3 combined, and he basically almost doubled those two combined. He's an absolute beast up the middle. He is a force to be reckoned with. Tell me a little bit about Dexter Lawrence.
To be honest with you, I think he's the best in the league at his position.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people won't say that. They'll say Aaron Donald, this, that, and the third. I think he is better. What hinders him is Leonard Williams' inconsistency next to him. Leonard Williams has half a good season, then he slows down, and then he picks it up a game here, a game there. But the best that you could have gotten out of Dexter Lawrence would have been if we'd have kept Dalvin Tomlinson next to him. Dalvin Tomlinson was consistent. He didn't up and down like Leonard Williams. He has to make up for Leonard Williams' lack of consistency sometimes, which hinders his consistency. If you had somebody next to him that was consistent, Dexter Lawrence would easily be leading in every stat line at his position. And that's my honest opinion of him. But the poor play on the side of him hinders his skill because he has to try to pick up the slack for him.
He's a phenomenal player. I don't know that I could argue. Right at this stage in his career, Donald getting a little bit older. Chris Jones also very, very good, but you know he's also other side of 30. I don't know that I can argue that. I think that there's a case to be made, and a lot of people really, really sleep on Dexter Lawrence. He's phenomenal. Anything you want to add, Pap?
Yeah, I mean, Lou hit it on point, man. The consistency around him. When you had Aaron Donald, he had consistency around him from the edge position. Imagine if our edge position was getting the pressure that they're supposed to, and with this big monster coming up the middle, you would have an absolute problem with just 4 people. And no, Quentin Williams is not better than Dexter Lawrence.
No,
I don't think it's close.
No.
I don't even think it's close.
No. He's good. Quentin Williams is good. Very, very good.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we'll see what it looks like this week. And maybe I'll do just a quick little film review for everybody on the channel. But if you have not seen Dexter Lawrence play football in the last season or so, highly recommend watching him play. He is a different beast, man. First of all, I don't know how many people roll around in this world at 6'4", 340, but a man that are as agile as anything you've ever seen. I mean, this man is a different animal. And kind of to your guys' point, when you're like the one guy, much like the 49ers have done for years with Aaron Donald, they've been able to neutralize him. They've been able to stay away from him, play keep away. The 49ers are likely going to be able to do that, and I'm sure that they're going to, just coming off the Rams game where it was Aaron Donald and a bunch of youngsters, they've got a similar game plan. It's a short week. Usually don't get a full game plan anyways. I think they're going to be able to deploy a lot of the same things that they did last week and maybe neutralize Lawrence. But that's not because Lawrence isn't great. It's just because the 49ers have a lot of weapons and can get that quick pass game going to where they can kind of take him out of the game a little bit. But he is so good, man. He is so freaking good. I had to bring him up this show. It'd be a crime if I didn't, I feel like.
Ken, real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this not because I'm on your show, but because I honestly feel I don't see you guys losing too many games this year.
No.
Like when I look at your schedule and I look at how your team is built, like you're easily one of the top picks to make it to the Super Bowl this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But every year, the Giants go into a game where everybody is expecting us to get blown out.
Mm.
And every year, we tend to take that game and shock everybody. And then we have a game where we're supposed to beat them easily and we'll lose to them. Every year, for some reason, we'll take one of the better teams and shock everybody and beat them. And then take a team that was supposed to get duck walked by us and we'll lose. And my pick for that game this year is the 49ers game. I think that we're a 10-point underdog already. Everybody's saying we don't got a chance. Oh, especially without Barkley. Oh, with Christian McCaffrey over there and that defense and this and that. The Giants don't stand a chance. And I just think that this is the week that we put up one of them stat lines. But in saying that, I don't think you guys lose many more games after tomorrow. Notice the jab there. Y'all losing.
Yeah. No, that was good. I like how you said after tomorrow. It's interesting because going into the season, and I asked your guys' expectations on the Giants, and I really at the time should have taken the opportunity to give mine as well. But I went through the schedule and I had the 49ers at 13-4. I then said, well, I'll give them 12-5 because there's always a game that you don't expect to lose that you do. It's just the way that it works, right? So I said, to be fair, I think it's a 12-5 team. The 49ers haven't done anything that I haven't expected from them to this point in the year. But that being said, it is clear that the 49ers are on a whole different mission. They know that this window is getting tighter.
Oh, yeah.
They know that they've got a quarterback. Yeah, what was that?
I said, oh, yeah, because they won't be able to keep everybody monetarily. You have to pay them guys at some point.
Yeah, and honestly, it's really actually, Big Lou, it's not even that. It's that a lot of these guys that you're paying monetarily are getting older anyways. And so they're gonna the contracts are gonna fade. The Trent Williams is gonna retire. Like, you got maybe this year and next year to have the whole crew together. Now, you can always replenish through the draft and what have you, and we'll see how that goes. But they've got a quarterback that Kyle Shanahan fully trusts. That's a great position to be in. You got CMC, who's 27 years old. We know running backs, when they get to that age, that's the downhill age. Well, right now he's still playing his best football, but how many more years are you going to get that out of a running back? So you can see how the urgency is there for the 49ers. They've been knocking at the door for so many years. And unlike some of those past years where they start out 3-4, they start out 3-5, this year, it seems like they've taken every game seriously. And one thing they talked about going into the season is they're looking to get that number one seed. They know that is a little bit of an older team in some of their key spots. They know how crucial that bye week is, and there's only one team that gets it. I believe that the San Francisco 49ers are on a mission to get that bye week going into the playoffs, and that's why they're playing with this urgency right out the gate. I love to see it as a 49er fan. I hope that they can keep it up, but I agree with you. There's not many losses on this schedule, and there are some good teams. Don't get me wrong. We play Dallas. We play Seattle twice. We play the Rams one more time, and I think they're, division games are always tough regardless. We've got the Ravens. We've got Philly. So there's some tough games. The Bengals, I know that they've started out 0-2.
Sorry, Randall. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. But the Bengals, anytime that Joe Burrow's cooking, if he's healthy, they're always going to be a formidable foe. The Browns are pretty decent. So there's some tough games, but I think that the 49ers can really outclass most teams in the NFL. And I'm curious to see how this season plays out. But they've got a sense of urgency like I haven't seen in a couple of years out of them out the gate, which is phenomenal to see.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to be pretty dominant this year. Just because you guys are getting off to a fast start. Usually you guys get off to a slow start and run off like 10 and 12 in a row. It's weird. But now y'all look like y'all trying to run off 12 in a row now. So.
Yeah, we're trying to start. I mean, that 2019 year is the only other year in the Kyle Shanahan 49er era that they've started out at least 3-0. So it shows you that they go through these slow starts. If they can win tomorrow, then that will be the second time, and that bodes well for the 49ers because, as you said, they tend to ascend as the season goes along. I would expect that to be the same this year. So starting out hot is a good thing. Two-Buck Chuck says Giants' best player is Jamie Gillen. We'll see him a lot.
A bunch of 3 and outs, huh? Yeah. Okay, buddy.
I doubt you'll see him at all much, actually. I think what happened in the second half of that team lit a fire under us and awoke the sleeping giant, pun intended.
I like it. I like it.
And I think you're going to see a whole different play calling style this week.
Yeah, I think that you definitely can't. I mean, you got to be aggressive. You got to be aggressive and try to win.
Jalen Hyatt proved early that he is dependable, even though he's a rookie. Them 2 deep passes that they went to him, he went up and high pointed it and bodied the other guy out like a pro and grabbed that ball at his highest point so that nobody can get it but him. And that other deep bomb, he just went and showed you, I'm going to flat out outrun you. And when you have a rookie that has that much confidence and you start building the chemistry with your quarterback, you have to account for that. And I guarantee you, amongst the 32 teams, 31 other teams that were paying attention, the 49ers were paying attention because you have us next. And yeah, Barkley might not be there, but we still got a pretty decent 1-2 punch with Gray and Breida. Breida's a fast running back.
Oh, we know. You got to remember, he was a 49er, my man. He was a 49er. We know how fast he is.
And he knows what Shanahan likes, and he knows what the 49ers like. So, there's some advantages there that we can expose if these guys are thinking along the right lines.
Yeah, right. I remember when y'all had Breida and Mostert on the same team.
Oh gosh, it was a track meet every single week, my man.
Yeah, remember that.
They helped that old boy. He wouldn't. Their record wouldn't have been as good without them.
No, those guys phenomenal. I loved watching them play. $2 Chuck comes back, says, "I need to get high like these Giants fans." Funny. Told you he's my resident ish talker. Toby Rivera comes in and says, "My favorite show of the week every week. Good luck to the Giants tomorrow night." See, there we go. All right.
Appreciate it.
Play nice. All right. All right, y'all. We're here. I think I know where you're leaning, Big Lou, but I'm going to get the official prediction. You got to tell me how this game goes down tomorrow. What's the official score prediction?
Well, initially, I was thinking it was going to be a low-scoring defensive battle. But honestly, I'm thinking more along the lines of that Drew Brees, Eli Manning matchup down in New Orleans a few years back. We lost by 1 touchdown, but it was a shootout. Literally, the Giants and the Saints went up and down the field, touchdown for touchdown. We lost 49-42, I believe the score was, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's going to be a similar type game between us tomorrow. I think it's going to be one of the better games of the year to watch, regardless of what team you cheer for. It's going to be a lot of highlights, a lot of moments. But I think we can pull it off by the skin of our teeth, maybe a field goal win, something like 38-35. Somewhere along those lines, yeah.
All right. My man Pat, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking something around 24-20. I think we're down 20-17 in the fourth quarter, and Daniel Jones pulls us through with a touchdown, 24-20, and we get the hell out of 49erville with a victory. It might come back to the East Coast before we had to go right back to the West Coast with Seattle. And the reason why is I just think this is going to be not a high-scoring game. If it's going to be a high-scoring game, it's probably going to be like a 49ers blowout if it's a high-scoring game. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think it's going to be towards a low-scoring game, especially if we come out for y'all first 2 drives and show y'all that we ready to play and don't let you drive it straight down the field and show that we ready to play. I think it might be like a 24-20 game, and it's going to be a defensive battle. To about the third quarter, both teams come out with some adjustments. You might get a couple of touchdowns in the third quarter, but I think we pull it out in the fourth quarter, and that's my prediction, 24-20.
Ooh. Man. All right.
Don't forget, Daniel Jones is a fourth quarter comeback specialist, so that's when he comes alive.
Well, listen, you already know how I feel about Daniel Jones. I told you that I think he's arguably the most underrated quarterback in the league. You know, I have respect for a lot of those players, but I think at some point talent becomes too much. And you guys have, I think you guys are a talented team for sure, but there's some big talent that's out of this game. Brandon Ayuk may not play as well, but that's still, I mean, it's too much. It is just, I think it's too much to overcome. The Giants have already sat on the West Coast for a whole week. I think getting your horses back, hopefully, we're going to need you guys to beat Seattle for us. So, you know, stay strong over there. Make sure you guys beat the Seahawks the following week. But I will make my guys in the chat mad often, because there are times that I pick against the 49ers and they're like, Jesse, what? Are you kidding me? Like, not in front of these guys. You can't pick against your team. But I'm always real. I just don't see it for y'all this week. And I don't see it being particularly close. It's just how I feel. This is my feeling on the game. Here's what I think's going to happen. I think it's going to look good early.
You for giving your opinion.
No, for sure. For sure. But I actually think it's going to look good early. And what I mean by that is I think the first drive the Giants have, they're going to put up points. I think they're going to put up a field goal. And it's going to be like, all right, we're feeling good about ourselves. You know, maybe even the 49ers only score 3 their first drive. It starts out real quick, 3-3. You guys score your first drive, you're feeling good. And I think that's where it ends for you. I think that they score another touchdown later. Hold on. I think they score a touchdown later, right? But it's going to be 4, 5, 6 drives in between that happening again. I'm going 31-10 49ers tomorrow night on Thursday.
Give me, man. Well, I tell you, get no respect from anybody.
Right. You get no respect. That could happen. I don't think it will. I think that Dallas loss is behind them now. I don't think they're gonna go out there and get spanked like that again. Not this time. If you do beat us, I think it's gonna be a close game. But I think we beat you in a close game. Ooh. If it's a close game, I think we beat you because you're so surprised. And you're like, what? Why the hell are these guys playing with us? And if Brandon Ayuk doesn't play, oh, that's more in our favor than you think. Because Brandon Ayuk is that dude that gets those passes across the middle of the field and turns it into things. Like, he keeps you guys going. And if we can focus on Deebo Samuel, and yes, I know you have Jennings and you have McLeod, who's a return specialist, but if he gets the ball in his hands, he's something dangerous too.
George Kittle. We haven't talked at all about George Kittle either tonight.
Because you don't have to talk about George Kittle. You know what he is.
You know George is going to put one on him tomorrow. I feel it.
We all know what George Kittle is. He's arguably the third best tight end in the league. I think behind Mark Andrews and Kelsey, who's going to go down as the greatest of all time. Yeah, but George Kittle works the middle of the field, or you're hitting him out of the backfield, and he's turning it up and running people over. If Ayuk is not playing, I think we can unleash some blitzes on you. Because Deebo Samuel is not a route runner. He's that dude that's going to catch the ball and just going to run through people. I'm not worried about him routing up Deontay Banks or Trey Hawkins or anybody like that. If Ayuk is gone, let's play. Let's play regardless. But if Ayuk is gone, let's play. Because now I can use Isaiah Simmons and make him meet with the middle of the field when you try to throw it in the middle of the field. But we'll see.
You know what? I actually hope that Ayuk doesn't play, just for the fact that he was a little bit banged up this last week. And I feel like it's a game where on a short week, they should rest him and just make sure he's fully healthy for the rest of the season. So I actually hope that they do give him that rest, and we'll see. We'll see if things can get interesting. But I just, home opener, man, West Coast game for y'all, short week, bunch of injuries. I have respect for the Giants. I do. I think y'all can be fine. I think you guys still might make the playoffs, but I just don't think this is the week for y'all. I really, really don't. But we'll see. We'll see. And here's what I want to say, and I always say this every week. If you are in the Last Second Sports chat, here, let me bring this up and let me put it back down. You are in the Last Second Sports chat, Big Pat Sports Talk, G Nation Inside Sports. Go subscribe to their channels. And even if it means that you just want to run your mouth after the game, if the 49ers win, I'm sure that they will take the extra views. Show them some love. They just gave us over an hour. Make sure you go over to their channel and see what they're rapping about after the game as well. Give these guys some love and then stay subscribed, because ultimately the 49ers and Giants, whether it's this year again or in the future, they're going to play. And when they do, maybe they're my guests again on Behind Enemy Lines, but you always want to keep a read on the opponent. So make sure that you stay tapped in with them always. So go show these guys some love. I appreciate the hell out of you guys being here. Couple super chats on the way out. We got $2 Chuck coming back in. He says, Giants fans, sativa or indica? What tree y'all smoking?
We smoking that 49ers pack. That's what we smoking.
And then Anthony comes in and says, here's $2, man. I appreciate you. Listen, I gotta say this. The Giants side of the chat was jumping tonight. Out of the 3 games that we've done this so far this year, the Giants chat more so than the Steelers or the Rams was jumping tough tonight. So you guys represented very, very well in the chat. Obviously, I know the 49ers represented well, but I'm seeing a lot of the little links telling me that the Giants fans are tapping in over there. They are definitely feeling the content you guys provide. They are definitely loving their Giants. I appreciate y'all. And good luck to the G-Men tomorrow. We'll see how it goes down. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Appreciate y'all in the chat. Much love.
Thank you for having us, man.
Peace.
And like the host said, if you feel like coming on and talking your junk after the game, win or lose, it don't matter. We read every chat, not just the super chat. We value every opinion and we answer every comment because we love football. You know, we just got monetized. We've been doing this for the longest without being monetized because we love football. We don't mind having debates with other teams, other fans,